Hey everyone, I hope you're having a fantastic day. Today, I just wanted to talk about what makes each Dragon Quest game special, what makes them stand out, and what makes them worth playing. In my opinion, every single one of these games is worth playing and has something unique to them that makes them stand out from the rest of JRPGs. That's what I wanted to kind of spotlight today. If you enjoy Dragon Quest content like top 10 videos, reviews, guides, and news, please remember to like, subscribe, turn notifications to all so you don't miss the next video. You can also hype the video on mobile if you want to help out, and if you want to help out the channel financially, be sure to join the channel and become a Dragon Warrior today. Now let's get into it. Alright, so we're going to go through these in order of games. So we're going to go from Dragon Quest 1 all the way up to Dragon Quest 11. Obviously, the earlier games aren't going to have as many things that stand out, aren't going to have as many things that are unique about them, but as we go on, we're going to have more and more to talk about here. So let's start with Dragon Quest 1, or Dragon Warrior here in North America. I remember playing this game as a little kid, and I just loved exploring this gigantic world, or what was gigantic to me, okay? If you compare this to other Dragon Quest games and maybe even JRPGs, it's a pretty small world map, right? But this is a story about a lone warrior out to save the land. He has to rescue the princess from the green dragon. He's got to take down the dragon lord all by himself. And to me, that's what kind of sets Dragon Quest 1 apart from the other entries in the series, is that you are forced to be a lone warrior. In the HD2 remake and even the original, you can carry Gwaelin with you to the finish if you would like, but overall, it's the story of a lone hero who can't be everywhere to protect everyone at all times, but does his darndest to make sure his world is safe despite the circumstances. To me, that's what just makes Dragon Quest 1 special, other than the fact that this is kind of the granddaddy of all JRPGs, kind of the blueprint that pretty much every JRPG moving forward followed. Dragon Quest 2, speaking of a giant world to explore, Dragon Quest 2 is 4 to 5 times larger than Dragon Quest 1 was when it comes to the size of the world map. This was absolutely mind-blowing back in the day, in Dragon Warrior 2 as it was called over here in the West, and it also had party members, which wasn't like completely mind-blowing. There were other kind of JRPGs or RPGs that had party members, but this was the first Dragon Quest game that had party members. It's also a great story, especially the HD2 remake is a great story of family, revenge, and personal growth. And that's what I really loved about the HD2 remake of Dragon Quest 2. It just leaned into kind of like that family aspect, the fact that they are families, but they aren't like super close at the beginning, and then by the end of the game, they're like absolutely inseparable. You've got characters that are going through terrible things because their country, their family's been destroyed, and all they want is to seek revenge against the people who did that to them, and eventually learning that revenge isn't going to make them come back, you know? Learning how to deal kind of with their emotions, and learning that not all monsters are all of one demographic is exactly the same. Everyone is a different individual and should be treated as such, and that's kind of a big part of what makes Dragon Quest 2 stand out to me. Dragon Quest 3, what made this stand out is customization. You had a party that you created yourself, and this is also one of the first JRPGs to implement a job class system, and it did it very well, allowing tons and tons of growth and customization and multiple kind of routes to where you want to go. The way the job class system worked in this, obviously everybody started as a single job class, and then once you get to Dharma Temple or All Trades Abbey or whatever you want to call it, you can then have the opportunity to change job classes. What that did, however, was allowed you to keep all the skills and spells that you had learned through your previous job class, and then you'd go back to level 1 with all your stats halved. And then from there, you could learn all the new ones in that job class. If you really wanted to, you could create a character that has every single skill and ability. It's just super awesome that this was something that they thought of way back when Dragon Quest 3 came out, and it's still something that kind of blows my mind to this day. There's not a lot of games that let you carry forth all those abilities, and not a lot of games that let you like level down to level 1 with half your stats and then grow them back up and continuously become a stronger and stronger level 1 character, making that level 99 character an absolute freaking juggernaut. So this is the only game I can think of off the top of my head that allows you to do that, and that's something that really makes Dragon Quest 3 stand out to me. Dragon Quest IV, of course, stands out because of its chapter system. Dragon Quest IV takes place across a number of different chapters. Each chapter has you playing as a different character. It just does an excellent job of having the player get to know all the characters in their own original stories and then banding together in the end for a common goal. I think this is an excellent way to tell a very character-centric story. It's an excellent way to develop characters, especially in a game way back on the NES. You didn't really have a lot of like character development or strong characters back on the NES, but this is the way to do that. They all got their moment to shine in the spotlight, and it just makes it that much better and more meaningful when you're recruiting all these characters in the 5th and final chapter. Also, another thing that really makes this stand out is Sorrow, who is probably the best villain in the franchise in my opinion. He's kind of a villain that you kind of feel for because he's got kind of righteous inspirations for what he is trying to do. He wants to protect the ones he loves, and in order to do so, he needs to become more powerful. Unfortunately, he goes overboard with that, loses control, and becomes a threat to the world. But yeah, those are the things that I would say make Dragon Quest IV stand out amongst the franchise. Dragon Quest V, of course, is the sense of family. I don't want to spoil anything in any of these. I'm just keeping it pretty vague here, but the fact that it tells the story of a family, it shows the ups and downs of being a family and what can happen to the family, and also shows that life must go on. Regardless of the terrible things and circumstances that may happen to you, life goes on, you have to work through it, and eventually you can come out the other side a bigger and better person. This is a great tale of not letting anything stop you. There are so many obstacles in kind of the main character's way in this game. He never lets them stop him from reaching his goals. He is willing to do whatever it takes to make things right, to get things back to the way they should be, and that is something that really, really stands out to me in Dragon Quest V. And then, of course, you got the brides. You can choose between 3 different brides to marry, and that changes kind of the game later on a little bit. And also, of course, the monster recruitment is unique to this game as well. Some of the other games have monster recruitment, but it doesn't work exactly like it does in Dragon Quest V. Dragon Quest V, the monsters you recruit really are just other party members in this game. It feels like they're a part of the party. They're part of the team. They don't feel like they're like your pets or anything like that, or they're not something that you just call on when you're in a pinch. These guys are around for the long haul. They're just your bros, all right? They're part of the team, and that's another thing that really makes Dragon Quest V stand out. Dragon Quest VI has the 2 worlds. Of course, we've been talking about this with Dragon Quest XII on the horizon, that there's the dream world and the real world, and they both affect one another. And it was always super cool when you met a character in either the dream world or the real world, and then you would always want to see what that character or who that character is in the opposing world. You have a different idea of who you are in your head or who you want to be in your head in your dreams, for example, and then when you meet who the person really is in real life, it's this cool feature that none of the other games in the franchise has. I don't know if any other game honestly has this kind of a feature, so let me know down in the comments if you know of anything similar to this. I think in the modern era, this is something that also really speaks to me, because you have people who portray something to the world online, but then when you like meet them in real life, they're completely different. Like, for example, I like talking about Dragon Quest. I'm going to talk about Dragon Quest all day, every day if I can, but in person, I'm also kind of a shy dude. I'm not completely open like this until you get to know me a little better, or I get to know you a little better, right? Everybody has this image of themselves of who they want to be, and then they also have like who they are comfortable being, if that makes sense. I kind of like that dynamic with Dragon Quest VI. It also revamped the job class system, allowing you to kind of have the best of both worlds here. I found these frustrating to level up, but overall, it was a nice way to try out different job classes, keep the abilities from those job classes, and there was quite a few different job classes at your disposal. Also, this game has Terry, one of the greatest characters of all time, very, very similar to that of Sorrow's, wants to gain more power to protect the ones he loves. Thankfully, he doesn't go quite as mad as Sorrow did in Dragon Quest IV. Dragon Quest VII tells the story of a world already lost, and I think that's something that really, really makes it unique. All the other games, you're just trying to like save a world that is in peril. They're definitely in dire straits. There's some terrible things happening to the people in these worlds, but in Dragon Quest VII, these lands are long gone, and it's not until you accidentally stumble on a way to travel to the past where you start to learn and put put together what happened to all these islands, continents, and countries. And then you kind of piece together who's behind all this, what's going on, how to prevent that from happening. And then the cool thing is when you return to the present day, you then go to those places that you saved and then learn what happened between your interactions with those places in the past and then in the present. It's a very, very cool concept. I absolutely love Dragon Quest VII. It's got a ton of great stories and storytelling in this one as well. And then of course I have to mention the moonlighting job class system that was added in the Dragon Quest VII Reimagined. This allows you to have 2 job classes at once, and there's different like special moves and abilities in between them all, and it's just nice being able to mix and match them and find out which classes work the best together, which classes in a team work the best together. There's just so many different ways you can play this game, and that is what I love so much about it, on top of those other things I mentioned previously. Dragon Quest VIII was the series' first foray into a fully realized 3D world, and it did an amazing job keeping that massive sense of exploration that all the previous Dragon Quest games had and implementing it in that 3D world. It also features Yangus. That makes it stand out. Yangus, one of the greatest characters of all time. You also get access to breath attacks by feeding your mouse Munchie different types of cheese, which is hilarious but pretty damn awesome. And most importantly, it introduced kind of the skill tree system that we pretty much use in all Dragon Quest games since, or at least a variation of it. And on top of that, last but not least, it allowed you to recruit monsters to a monster team that you could call upon when in need and battle in the arena. It's a lot different than how Dragon Quest V did it. In this, it almost acts as like a summon, really. You like call upon a party of monsters and they will battle for you in regular battles or boss battles. It was super awesome. I wish they would do that again. To me, that is the best implementation of the monster recruiting and monster party system. So yeah, I really wish this would come back in Dragon Quest 12 or any other mainline Dragon Quest game, really. Dragon Quest 9, what makes this one stand out is again the vast amount of customization, but not just in job classes this time, but also in gear. Yes, this is the first Dragon Quest game where every single piece of gear and equipment and weaponry that your character has shows up on the character model. This was such a huge deal back when it came out, and still is to this day, because even games like Dragon Quest XI do not show every piece of equipment that you're wearing. Also, of course, I had to mention, you could play through this entire game 4-player co-op, which is absolutely amazing. You can hang out in a room with your friends and crack through one of the funnest Dragon Quest games ever made. They also vastly expanded the weapons at your disposal, especially when it comes to like boomerangs, because before some of the weapon types would only have like maybe 6 to 10 different varieties, but now they added a ton of new boomerangs and whips and staves. I just really love how they expanded on the available weaponry in Dragon Quest IX. Dragon Quest X, similar to Dragon Quest IX, you can play up to 4 players co-op, but this is the first Dragon Quest with online play. So you can play online with your friends. You don't have to be in the same room. Also similar to 9, of course, all your weapons and gear and all that show up on the character model, but this is a more kind of HD, fully realized 3D environment, whereas Dragon Quest IX was more kind of that chibi look on the DS. Another great feature that Dragon Quest X has is there's essentially 7 full-length Dragon Quest games in the game. So every time you complete a main story or a version, you're then ready to set off into this whole new world and whole new adventure, and it's an excitement that you get over and over again that a lot of the other games in the franchise you just can't get. Also, if you want to play single player, you can still hire your friends or hire randoms at the bar to join your party. They will get experience points the next time they log in from your battles and all that, which is pretty freaking awesome. And of course, the biggest thing that makes Dragon Quest X stand out to me, the fishing minigame. That's right, Dragon Quest X has probably the best fishing minigame of all time. It's turn-based combat against the fish. It's you, your line, and your lure versus the fish. There's different like special moves you can do depending on your rod, and each different lure has its own specialties. I just absolutely love the fishing minigame in Dragon Quest X. Now in Dragon Quest XI, there may not be fishing, but you can be a fish at some point. Dragon Quest XI is just this amazing love letter to the entirety of the franchise that that came before it. It pays tribute to all the other games and kind of fills in the timeline, kind of helps you make up the timeline. And I think the most important great thing that Dragon Quest XI does is it has that classic JRPG feel that we all know and love, with the modern quality of life improvements that we would expect from a modern day JRPG. Of course, the story's amazing, the characters are great, it's got one of the best cast of characters of all time, but what makes it stand out to me most importantly is that fact that it feels like you're playing those like PS1, PS2 era JRPGs that you really don't get too much these days, but with the modern day quality of life improvements. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. What are the things that you feel make each of these games stand out amongst the others or amongst other JRPGs? What makes the Dragon Quest franchise stand out amongst other JRPGs? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please remember to like, subscribe, turn notifications to all so you don't miss the next video. You can also hype the video on mobile to help out. And if you want to help the channel financially, be sure to join the channel and become a Dragon Warrior today. Thank you guys again for watching, and I will see you in the next one.